Welcome to another session of Innovation Management and Marketing. And last time we stopped talking about marketing definitions, and I was giving an overview about the different kind of concepts of marketing. Such as a sales approach, a marketing approach, production orientation, and how marketing evolved over time. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the basic marketing terms that you need to know. So first of all, markets is a set of actual and potential buyers of a product, so where they come together. It can be online, can be offline, so it can be physically or non-physical. And every product basically which is available in a limited amount is dealt with on markets. And there is supply and there is demand. You know this probably from macroeconomics. So there is a market for everything. There is a market for tennis tournaments. There is a market for online lectures. There is a market for education in general or for certificates. There is a market for toilet paper in Corona times. There is a market for everything. And on a given markets, we have suppliers, right? And those suppliers, they're providing the companies with raw material, with certain kind of ingredients they need to know, and then they need to have. Also, they need to know. It can also be non-tangible, can also be patents, certain kind of data that is going into some kind of production process. But basically, this is raw material, for example, that is provided to companies, and companies, of course, are then using marketing intermediaries, or they sell directly to the consumers. And consumers, of course, are asking for certain kind of products and certain kind of services, right? So we have service companies and we have consumer goods companies, and of course we have public corporations as well, like our university. And all of that, as we can see in today's world more than ever before, is influenced by macroeconomic factors, by environmental forces, such as political legislation, environmental legislation, such as also social norms and standards. And we can see the interconnectedness of today's world simply by looking at the different kind of value chains that are interrupted right now due to Corona. And we see that a lot of people, a lot of companies, they fail to produce products because they are lacking from the supply side. They are lacking raw material. They are lacking certain kind of ingredients they need to have to finalize the product. And this is not only applicable, this is not only happening in the car industry, but this is also happening in the medical industry. This is happening in agriculture. This is happening in a lot of industries. So we can see that the value chain and the production processes are more globalized than ever before. So we have a great dependency on suppliers, for example. So a lot of companies have that. There are also companies in this respect, probably you heard about that, who have control of the entire value chain. We can talk about that in this respect. That would be helpful. So if I open the Blackboard, and we may talk about companies who control the entire value chain, and we call that totally vertically integrated companies, or corporations. An example, e.g., would be Zara. So the Zara Corporation, belonging to Inditex, the Spanish company, this is a very much fully integrated, vertically integrated company, because they have their own cotton plants, they have their own trucks, they have their own outlets, they have their own designers. So basically, they have control over the entire value chain, and we call that totally vertically integrated corporations. New Balance is another one, another example from the sneaker industry, from the sports apparel business. Those companies, of course, they have an advantage right now because they are not dependent on some kind of a supplier, external suppliers probably. And they also don't need marketing intermediaries because they have their own retail network. So there are some companies producing products or services, but they need intermediaries, somebody in between to sell to the consumer. But sometimes they're also selling directly to the consumer. So therefore you also have the arrow going like that. Okay. This is very important to talk about. This is a macroeconomic topic. Nevertheless, this is important in marketing as well. Just focus on the first line here, on the first row. If there are many buyers in a given market and you have many suppliers in a given market, we are calling that free competition. You can also call that polypole. You can also call that polypole. So that can be called polypole. It's like that. Polypole means the reigning of many. So the many different suppliers, many different buyers in a given market. That is called polypole. So in a polypole or in the free competition markets, the single supplier has no control over the market price. So what is meant by that? So he is a so-called adapter to the market price. If you have let's assume you're running a petrol site, a petrol station, but you just have one, or you have two or three. But in Germany you have around, I don't know, 20,000 now. So the question is here, if you're just one or two running two in between 20,000 others, you cannot control the price for petrol in the given market in Germany. Of course not. So therefore, in the polypole, we're calling that you're a price taker, you're a price adopter, because you cannot influence the market price. In this one, if there are few suppliers and many buyers, we call that supply oligopoly, or just oligopoly. And in an oligopoly, you have a very specific form of competition, because we call that oligopolistic interdependence. So in this market, you have a so-called oligopolistic interdependence. Oh, I made a mistake here. Interdependence. Oligopolistic interdependence or interdependency, which implies that in an oligopoly competition or market, you have very few suppliers, many buyers, so meaning every supplier is depending, or his strategies are dependent on the strategies of the others. And it makes sense, because if there are only 5-6 companies having more than 50% accumulated market share, those companies are in control, basically. There are maybe other companies, but those companies, they have minor market shares. Can you give examples and use the chat function now to do so for oligopolies or oligopolistic markets? What may be examples for oligopolies? Traditionally, it's the market I was working in, basically, the oil market, mineral oil market, because worldwide, it depends, of course, whether you're looking at a country. Yeah, Shell, 𝗬𝗵𝗃, very good. So if you're just looking at one country, it may be different than if you're looking at the entire globe. But even if you're looking at the entire globe, there are just a few companies who rule the world, basically. Or Rosneft, you also have state-owned companies here playing game, but Exxon, BP, Shell, etc. But you have much more oligopolies than you would originally think of. What are other examples? Nestle. Yeah, but yes. Oh, one moment. No, 𝗬𝗁𝗂𝗏. One moment. Nestle is correct, because if you look at the food market, there are very few. If you look at food and consumer goods, very few companies who actually are ruling or are owning many brands. And there is a very popular slide on that on the internet. You can Google that, who belongs or which brand belongs to which kind of company, and you type in food and you see that there are only 5-6 companies. Nestle is one, another one being Unilever, another one being Procter & Gamble. And if you put together these 5-6 companies, they have about, I don't know, 80% market share. Yeah, laptops. Also mobile phone providers. If you look at the German market or European market, there are not hundreds of mobile phone providers. Actually, we have a trend in this world towards oligopolization. Why? Because in particular in a globalized world, if you want to be global, if you want to go global, you need to have a certain kind of size. You need to have a certain kind of financial power in order to penetrate all kinds of markets. So you can be successful. Walmart. No. It is okay. Supermarkets, yes. For example, if you look at the German market, but if you look at the world overall, it will be there are many hundreds and thousands of supermarkets, but different kind. For example, the German market, different kinds of supermarket chains, they control the market. So we have an oligopoly when it comes to supermarkets and discounters in Germany as well. My point was, you need a different kind of you need a big size. We have this saying of grow or go. Grow in terms of market share, otherwise you have to go home. You can be very profitable in the niche, but you cannot be so much successful as a global corporation. So the more you internationalize, the more usually capital you need, the more partners you need. So in this respect, and you can see that looking also at the digital companies, Facebook, Google, Amazon, the big ones, Microsoft and Apple. They also grow a lot, and they grow their business by acquisition. We call that mergers and acquisition, M&A processes. Because take the example of Facebook. Facebook in some countries is on shrinking, is declining in terms of usage, monthly active users. However, Facebook and Zuckerberg was laughed about. So everybody was mocking about Zuckerberg when Zuckerberg bought Instagram for $1 billion a couple of years ago. And people were saying, oh, what is Facebook doing? That's ridiculous, right? He's paying for some nerds in a garage with some computers and a digital photo album. But now Instagram is growing more quickly in some countries, much more quickly. In particular, if you look at the young users, than Facebook is. In China, of course, is a completely different story. China, you always you have a lot of monopolies actually. So where there are just basically there may be more suppliers, but basically there's only one, which is so powerful that this company controls the market. In an oligopoly, to finish that, it is called oligopolistic interdependence, like I said, because the companies are all dependent on one another. So if Shell pursues a certain kind of strategy, it is also dependent on the reaction of BP. It's also dependent on the reaction of Exxon. So they cannot pursue a certain kind of marketing or global strategy without taking into consideration what may be the answer of BP, what may be the answer of Exxon. Monopolies. Are there still examples for monopolies? Of course, Chinese people can give us some examples, but we also have in the Western industrialized world, we have examples of that. E.g., Google would be one. Google in terms of search. Google has a market share in most countries of greater than 90%. So that is what you can call a monopoly. Of course, you have other suppliers such as Bing or Yahoo, but their market share statistically is not relevant. So you can call Google in terms of search in certain kind of countries as a search engine. You can call Google as a quasi monopolistic company. So it's some kind of a supply monopoly. Other examples from China, from the Chinese students. Huawei. I don't know the market share of Huawei in China. I don't know that. From a global perspective, Huawei is not a monopoly, of course, but in China, companies such as Alibaba, they kind of controlling online commerce, e-commerce, when it comes to certain kind of product categories. Or it would be Tencent, or it would be WeChat. So these are all Chinese companies that basically are covering up what in the Western world where we are referring to as WhatsApp or those kind of companies. So there was one, I don't know, I didn't see it. It was popping up too quickly. There was one remark in the chat. OPPO, what is that? What is OPPO? What is that? Oppo? I don't know. I've never heard about that company before. Gazprom, yeah, of course. You cannot, like I said, it depends on the market you're looking at. If you look at Russia, of course, Gazprom is a monopoly. Also, you have, if you look at certain kind of Bundesländer, so parts of Germany, for example, North Rhine-Westphalia, you have 𝗟𝗶𝗰, 𝗨𝗵𝗱𝗺liche Elektrizitätswerke, as being a monopolist in this particular Bundesland, in this particular region of Germany. And so you can find a lot of, actually a lot of monopolies, also when it comes to, for example, the supply of households with water or electricity. There are a lot of monopolies, and of course in a monopoly it's a bit different. So if you run a monopoly, marketing wise, you can either set the price or you can set the quantity. You cannot set both at the same time, but if you set the price, then there's a certain kind of demand for that price, and if you set the quantity, there's a certain kind of price which is built on the market. Okay, these are very important terms, and this is actually what every marketeer wants to know. That is the differentiation between market volume and the market potential. Market volume is comprised of all the volume, all the sales in a given market. So all the sales of BP, Exxon, Aral, Shell, and Jet, etc., all the oil companies together make up the market volume. Of course, what we want to know as marketeers, but not only as marketeers, but as corporations or as organizations, we want to know what is the market potential. So how much can we potentially sell in a given market? Who's belonging to the target group? So how far can we exploit the potential that the market is providing? And a very good and tangible overview of market potential, or the difference between market potential and market volume, is provided in here. So let's go to the left picture first. Here, the inner ring, the inner circle, is the market volume. This is so this is all the sales in a market put together, and the inner ring is of course comprised of different kind of market shares. So these are market shares of the respective companies which are operating in this given market. So we have a market share A of company A or B and C. And of course, what we want to know, if this is the potential of the market, so the maximum potential of a given market, we want to find out, okay, how can we increase, if we are A, how can we increase our market share? How can we get hold of this one? Or how can we get a better or a bigger piece of the market volume? So these are questions which are of strategic relevance. So the question is, how can a company grow? What do I mean by market potential? Market potential is what you can potentially sell. I give you one example from the beer industry, from the German beer industry. 𝗏𝗃𝗃. I think I was telling the story of 𝗏𝗃𝗃 last week, didn't I? I don't know. But 𝗏𝗃𝗃 realized, yes, 𝗏𝗃𝗃 realized that they sold very, very few bottles to women. Because of the product, because women didn't like the taste, didn't like the look and feel of the beer. And they said, potentially, all women in Germany being aged over 18 and younger than 90 belong to our target group. So that's the market potential. That is the market potential, because they can drink beer as well. Right now they are not doing, but potentially they are our customers. So this is meant by market potential. Is that clear? So that is the market potential. How much can we potentially sell? Yeah. Now the question is now, if the inner ring, the market volume, is close to the market potential, like in this picture here, the so-called growth reserve, which makes up the difference here, this one, the gap between the volume and the potential. So the closer the volume is to the potential, the more saturated a market is. We're calling that market saturation. Market saturation, or in other words, it is indicating the difference between the volume and the potential is indicating what the growth reserve is like. So the closer the volume is to the potential, the more difficult it is, of course, to grow. Here, there's a lot of potential in the market. You can compare it to a sponge. If you take the image just of a sponge, and the sponge can take a certain amount of liters of water, it can take. So let's assume a sponge can take 5 liters of water, and then it's dropping, leaking, etc. So it can only take 5 liters of water, and or take a bath tube, whatever. It's the same kind of image, but there are 2.5 liters in the sponge right now. So the 2.5 liters in the sponge of water is the market volume. So the market saturation then is 50%. So there is still a growth potential of another 2.5 liters in the sponge. So I think that it's a nice image. It's a nice metaphor to better understand what we are talking about. So there are some questions popping up in the chats. So one strategy might be addressing more customers with a greater variety of products. Yes, of course. Because you do that, this estimation of market potential, you do that on a category basis, right? You don't do that on a company basis. You say, what is the potential for Shell worldwide? That is difficult to say, because you need to look at the different kind of businesses that we have. Strategic business units, we call them. So what is the potential for chemicals? What is the potential for marine? What is the potential for oil? What is the potential for aviation products, etc.? And then there is another question here, whether market potential is market volume plus growth reserve or not. Yeah, that's true. Yes, it is true. So market potential is market volume plus growth reserve. Or better the other way around. So to understand that, the difference between if you subtract from the potential, if you subtract the volume, you arrive at the growth reserve, which is indicating how much in terms of sales, how much in terms of profitability is left in a given market. And the question is then, of course, how big is the potential? How big is the potential? That is difficult to estimate because it depends on what is the consumption, for example, like in a certain kind of country. So what is the potential in terms of value? You can if you are Bex, going back to the Bex example, it is easy to tell and say, okay, potentially all people are our customers who are over 18 and younger than 90 years of age. That is easy, and it is easy to say, okay, these are so many people. Okay, potentially. But the market potential you really want to know is, of course, what is the potential of the market in terms of value? And in order to understand that, you need to go to a formula, which is here. No, it's not here. But we can easily calculate. It's not on the slide. But in order to arrive at a value for the market potential, you need to know, okay, how many people are belonging to this potential target group, and what can they potentially consume? So how many bottles of beer are they potentially drinking? And what is the value, the average value of a bottle of beer? And then you arrive at the market potential in terms of sales volume, in terms of turnover, right? And then here we have the different kind of market shares, like we said. And the question is now, how can you increase your market share? What are the options? What can you do? What can you do? How can you get a bigger piece of the cake? What are the options? Anybody in an idea? So what you can do? Fusion, yeah, very good. Mergers and acquisitions, yes. You can take over company F. You can buy F, of course, to get a bigger market share. So that is one option. So one option is that's painted on the slide. A bit better to read. So one option, what you can do is you can have an acquisition, mergers and acquisitions, M&A process. That's the first option. The second option, what can you do as well? Engagement with customers, increase engagement. Yeah, that's very good. So literally what you can do actually is you try to increase the usage and the frequency of use. So increase buying frequency, for example. So if you managed buying frequency, this also gets you a bigger piece of the cake, because if, for example, and this was the strategy of Coca-Cola actually, if a couple of years ago, and it still is actually, Coca-Cola tried to increase or to have more usage situations for people to drink Coke. So what they tried to do, communication wise, was to persuade people to start drinking Coke for breakfast, because it provides caffeine, so it gives you a kick or something like that. And instead of drinking coffee or tea in the morning, people, or a glass of milk, people should drink Coca-Cola. And of course, if people do so they have more consumption situations pattern-wise, this is increasing, of course, the buying frequency, and this is increasing your your market share. Another option would be if you win buyers, if you win customers from competitors, win competitors customers. Yeah, if you win over competitors' customers, for example, because you have a better product, because you have a killer feature in your product, customer relationship management, very good. To win over competitors' customers could be an option, or by having a certain kind of price strategy. So you I don't know, you have a certain kind of value for money, which you're communicating, which gets you a lot of customers from competitors. And fourth would be, and that is actually most difficult, but most interesting is, of course, to go into this direction here, would be if you convert non-users into users. So for example, you're a tea company, you're manufacturing tea in all kinds of sorts, and you also do green tea, and you have a communication strategy that says, now latest research found out that there is a positive correlation between drinking tea and by drinking green tea, you're reducing your risk to be affected by cancer, for example. I don't know. Yeah, we don't give any statistic data about that, but there's some correlation. It's more healthy, etc., etc. So if you get people, for example, prior to this strategy, drinking only coffee, drinking only water, whatever, but non-tea drinkers, and you turn them into tea drinkers, of course. That is, of course, also exploiting the potential in a given market. So these are basically the options. Here, I talked about that, the market saturation, what it is. The degree of market saturation can be calculated if you divide the market volume by the market potential. You arrive at the degree of market saturation. Like I was giving the example, if you have the volume is 2.5 and the market potential is 5, taking the example of the sponge with the water, you have a saturation of 50%. And of course, the greater the market saturation degree is, 90%, the more saturated a market is, and the more difficult it is for a company to grow in this specific market, because there are many competitors, and I don't know, the market is already kind of exploited, and it's very difficult. So you have to look sometimes for new playing fields, and that is also the reason why the Apple Corporation now try to copy Netflix and to go into the streaming business, because the market for mobile phones is, of course, not endless. So it has an end. It's limited, right? So the market is, of course, growing, yeah, because there are new people coming in. There are also some people dying. But of course, basically in Germany, just look at Germany. We have about 82 million inhabitants, but we have more than 160 million phone contracts. So statistically, every person living in Germany owns already 2 mobile phones. So what I'm saying with that is that the market is kind of saturated. Of course, you can try, like I said, you try to increase the frequency of use. So if you get people buying a smartphone every year, buy themselves the new smartphone, then it's good, and there's plenty of growth opportunities here. However, this is not going to work. And if you look at the increase or the market growth of the mobile phone market in Germany, you see that the growth is not so substantial anymore. So, but still we have growth potential, big potential in the streaming business. And therefore also Apple was looking for new playing fields, new businesses, new strategic business units to step into, and therefore they entered the streaming market. So now I'm trying to give you an overview about marketing in general. We already said that marketing, simply speaking, is more than just the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, promotion. This is just the operational aspect of marketing. But what marketeers like myself, what we are looking at is more the entire marketing process of the corporation, and that is much more complex. So let me give you an overview. So this is about this the entire strategy process. I don't know whether we have time to talk about strategy in depth. Probably not, because we also have to cover innovation management. But I will provide you with an overview about how it all fits together. So basically, what we are seeing on the slide are the strategic questions, always 6 famous questions every company has to answer, has to ask themselves. So where are we now? Where are we now in terms of profitability, in terms of market share? How did we get here? So which kind of strategies, tactical, operational decisions did lead us to where we are right now in terms of market share? Where are we heading if we continue like that? So how is the market developing? Where are we heading? Are we experiencing a growth? How big is the growth? Where do we want to be in terms of market share, in terms of profitability? And most importantly, how do we get there? And you need some KPIs, key performance indicators, to answer the question whether you are on course or not. Looking at the, this is, by the way, this is what we use extensively, or what we used extensively at Shell. What we call scenario planning. Let's look at the blackboard here. So we have an axis here. One moment. So this one. So this is our system here. And I want to point out, so here, for example, this is the anticipation of where we are going. Of course, it depends, and probably you would say here, this is time, of course, and this may be, it may be market share, it may be profitability, it may also be turnover. It depends, of course, on which KPI, which metrics you're looking at, and then. But the big question is, of course, where do you want to be? Usually you want to go up, right? So usually you want to go up in terms of profitability, in terms of market capitalization or whatever. And then the big question is here, where do we want to be? And then the question is here, this one. And therefore we call that gap analysis. We call that gap analysis. Gap analysis. How to close the gap. How to close, not how to mind the gap like we're saying in London, mind the gap, but how to close that. How can we close the gap here? And there are different kind of strategic options. We will discuss that later. So these are basically the six key questions that we're having in strategy and strategic management and planning. Let's look at the marketing process then. So that is very, very complex. If you want to find out more about that, this is also how my book is structured, which I wrote with my Danish colleague, Professor Dr. Svend Hollandsen. My friend is a master of global marketing. And in this book, we laid down the basic principles of marketing management, not only of the operational side of marketing, but of the entire marketing management process. So it starts with the first step. The first step is mission, goals, and objectives. So first, every company should start with thinking about what is the purpose of my existence. So what is my mission? What do I want to accomplish? So what is the overall mission of the organization? And the mission, for example, of Google is to make all the world's information universally accessible in every language. You can read that on the Google website and in Google's annual reports and publications. So that is the mission of Google. And every kind of goal needs to feed in to that kind of overall mission. By the way, a mission of an organization, it is something like a guiding star. It guides all actions, strategic and operationally, of the entire enterprise. It can, by the way, some kind of visions can never be achieved, can never be accomplished, because making all the world's information universally accessible in every language, there are always coming new kind of information. We have this information overload, so you can never actually accomplish some kind of visions. So it's some kind of orientation, some kind of guiding star. And from this mission and purpose of existence, you derive certain kind of corporate goals. Corporate goals means across categories. These are the goals for the entire organizations. So what do you want to do? What do you want to do in terms of market share as a company, in terms of profitability? What is the overall goal? And in these strategic plans, usually you lay them down for 3 to 5 years. So that's a midterm plan. You specify that. And then in the second step, well, this is a very much a strategic tool. You assess the current internal and external situation of the organization. Usually, what we are doing in this kind of phase is we're having a tool called a pest analysis. A pest analysis, probably you heard about that before. A pest analysis is looking at It's looking at the political, economic, social, and technological factors that surround a company. So you look at all those kind of factors and what is the influence of these kind of factors on my corporation. These are also not only political, so political is also legal, economic is clear, social is also different kind of languages, different kind of moral standards, ethics, etc. And technology-wise, this also is kind of clear. So what is the technical infrastructure like in a specific country? And of course, any kind of company is affected by that. If you're, for example, if you are Amazon or you're Netflix, you want to know in one country how much is or what is the percentage of people having high-speed internet access? Because if you don't have high-speed internet access, people cannot stream in 4K, or they cannot stream videos at all. So because you need a fast internet access for that. And also in the second step, this involves the internal situation of the company. So you need to do an audit, and you need to look at your strengths and weaknesses, always in relation to competitors. And this feeds into what we call in the third step, we call that the SWOT matrix, or the SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis, it's an acronym which stands for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So you take the external factors from the pest analysis and they go into the SWOT matrix, and you also take the internal strength and weaknesses and you put it together and you derive certain kind of strategic implications out of that. We cannot do that now because this is a completely different kind of topic. This is very much what we call the strategy part of marketing. This is strategic marketing. In the fourth step, we are looking at a market, and we are using a tool which we call STP approach: segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So what is that? What is segmentation, targeting, positioning? If I open the blackboard again, here, this one, it's good to read now. STP, segmentation, targeting, positioning. You can think of a market. This is not a country. This is just a market. And let's assume we're Nike, and you can look at the market for sports apparel, and you can divide the market, which is kind of heterogeneous. So there are many different kind of sports, many different customers, and they're all having different kind of demand. And the question is, so the first step is market segmentation, meaning how are you dividing a market and which criteria are you using? For example, you can apply certain kind of behavior characteristics. So you can divide a market, for example, just by looking at different kind of sports. You say, oh, there is a market for golf. There is a market for hiking. There's a market for diving. There's a market for swimming, swimwear, swim. There's a market for biking. There's a market for running. There's a market for basketball. There's a market for football. There's a market for etc. Skating, etc. Apnea diving, everything. So the first step is, how are you dividing the market? You're dividing the market into different kind of categories, into different kind of segments. And then in the second step, you're looking at the different kind of segments, and you say, okay, football or soccer, how big is the soccer, or how big is the golf market? So in terms of what is the volume here, and what is the growth here over the last couple of years, and also what is the potential here in the upcoming years. So what I was explaining for market volume, market potential on a product category basis, you also do that looking into the future, whether you're in that market or not, doesn't make any difference. So, and then you're targeting those segments, and you're looking for the most attractive ones where you're already in or which are growing. So for example, golf is a very much growing market. It's growing, in particular in Asia, it's very popular. So Nike was very much communication policy wise also putting a lot of efforts to hire or to have golf stars such as Tiger Woods or Rory McIlroy to promote golf, because golf is a very important market for Nike. On the other hand side, you're looking at the also market segments, for example, like swimwear, and you realize that the market for swimwear, it is growing, and we are in that market. Nike's in that market, but there are very strong competitors. Or if you look at surfing is even a better example. Surfing, we can produce clothes and apparel for surfers, but in this market we have very strong brands such as Quiksilver, O'Neill, Billabong, or in the swim market we have Arena, we have Speedo, and so this targeting and analysis of different kind of segments may also lead to a decision, and we say, okay, let's go out of that market. We are not in the swim market anymore. We want to cancel our production here, and we want to strengthen our presence in the golf market, and we want to strengthen our position in the soccer market, in the football market. So that is targeting. Positioning is then, in the end, how are you positioning your brand in this specific segments? So in terms of price, in terms of value suggestion, how are you positioning your products there? So this is the fourth step, and again, this is very much strategic, you realize, because that is done for the entire organization basically. And then you lay down as the fifth step the strategy. What is the strategy? What is the strategic marketing plan? What do you want to achieve for each and every market segment that you're targeting? And then after you did that, basically, here you lay it down for the entire organization. Here you lay it down per category, per what we call strategic business field or strategic business unit. And then this comes into the, here comes the tactical marketing plan. what is the tactical marketing plan? And here we come into that. The tactical marketing plan then, these are the 4 P's. These are the 4 P's. This is the operational side of marketing. This is the operational. Here the 4 P's are coming in. This is the operational side. Operational aspect of marketing. Now, we don't need that. So this is of course what we are focusing on in this lecture. So we are not focusing on any of these steps here until step number 5. We are focusing because it is a very comprised lecture. We are focusing on the tactical, on the operational aspect of marketing. But all the others also belonging to marketing. This is very much also strategic decisions. Therefore, we call that marketing strategy. It's marketing strategy, marketing management. Step 7 is the budget. And step 8, of course, you need to allocate a budget. You say, okay, how expensive is it? So what shall we do in terms of product development? What shall we do in terms of sponsorship? What shall we do in terms of etc., etc., etc.? So you need to lay down to define the budget, and you need to implement it and control. That's the last question, right? How can we track whether we are on the right way, on the right track here? Which KPIs, which key performance indicators, which metrics do we need in order to check that? And of course, what we do is we prepare for next year's marketing plan. So we have a feedback, a loop going back to the first step. So do we need to redefine our corporate mission? Are there any kind of new kinds of, for example, business units and fields, segments in a given market that pop up and where we may be, right? So how is the market developing? We're looking at that. Okay, any kind of questions? I didn't see, but I was very much focused on the slides, so I didn't see any kind of questions. No, I didn't see any kind of questions here. Any kind of remarks? Any kind of questions here for the for this process? No, this is not the case. Okay, then we continue with the second big step. So we have a couple of more minutes to talk about that. So probably we are not finishing the entire part, but let's quickly dive into that. So first of all, customer insights. What is that? We need, of course, a very, very in-depth understanding of the customers when it comes to the buying process, and also when it comes to the information research process. We need fresh and deep insights into customers' needs and wants, and their problems, of course, as well. We talked about that. However, and this is the critical part here, those data, these insights, is very difficult to obtain. Why? Because it is not obvious, and customers are unsure of their behavior. We are going to talk a little bit more about that next week probably, because there's a lot of brain research from neurobiology going into that, and because we need to understand what is really happening, how decisions are being made. But what we know, and Ford knew that very, very long before, and there's a famous quote from Henry Ford. I was quoting that in one kind of management lecture, I think. And he said, Henry Ford said, if I would have asked my customers what they wanted, they would have asked for faster horses. So if you ask a customer, how shall the next Porsche 911 look like? You get a dull answer, because people will say, like the current one, sporty, probably a bit less fuel consumption, and yeah, design-wise, yeah, evolution or revolution. How can you do that? So if you're a designer, if you're a mechanical engineer at Porsche, what can you do with an input like that? Nothing. Basically nothing. Because that is also the question and the problem when it comes to innovation, right? If you ask people for innovation and say, how shall the next computer look like? What kind of features does a laptop need to encompass? You arrive nowhere. So basically, you're not getting substantial input. But what is always a good starting point is to start with the problem of people. because that is also what I learned working for Google. What I learned from working for Google was start with a problem, not with a solution. Start with a problem, not with a solution. Because people know a lot what their problems are. I'll give you one example. ASUS, you know ASUS, and ASUS, they were the inventors of the 𝗖𝗶𝗁. Do you still remember the 𝗖𝗶𝗁? It was a new kind of category. It was a tablet, basically, a palm top. So it was very small. It was very compact. You have to Google that, 𝗖𝗶𝗁. And ASUS, they were not just doing this computer. What their approach was, it was a little bit like the Beck's approach. So they went to the people and they didn't ask, how shall we design a new kind of laptop innovation? But they were asking people and say, okay, what is your problem? Do you have a laptop? Okay, no, I don't. Okay, have a nice day. So, do you have a laptop? Yes, I have a laptop. Okay, what is your problem with the laptop? And then some people said, it's kind of heavy, although it's compact, but still heavy. It's more than 5 kilos. And now looking back, and I don't know from the top of my heart, when the 𝗖𝗶𝗁 was introduced, probably 10 years ago, roughly. But laptops were very heavy, 4 kilos, 5 kilos, whatever. And it's still very big. It doesn't fit into a handbag, so I need to carry an extra bag. Some lady said that. I don't like the size. Okay, and then, yeah, what other problems do you have? And then some people say, oh yeah, it happened to me once, and this was very unnerving. It was before cloud times. Or people were not really working with the cloud. Some people say, oh, it broke, it fell down, onto the ground, and was broken. The problem was not that the computer was broken. The problem was that the data was being lost. So the hard drive was so much damaged from the computer falling down that the data was being lost. So ASUS took this into consideration, and then they ask also, and some people say, yeah, and I don't like it. Sometimes it is a bit strange. I want to I don't know, when I'm accessing the internet, I'm having some kind of problems because the computer is not starting very quickly. If I turn it on, if I switch it on, it takes too long time. Okay, to cut a long story short now, ASUS took all these problems of the customers and they tried to bring out a solution. So what they did with the 𝗖𝗶𝗁 it was the computer. It was like an iPad. It was very, very compact, very small. And they said, okay, what makes the computer, for example, what makes a laptop heavy? It is also the optical drive. So a lot of computers or a lot of laptops during those days, they had optical drives. So they asked people, your laptop has an optical drive, right? And they said, yes, we have an optical drive. Yeah, why do you have optical drive in your laptop? And the customer said, I don't know. Are you using that? People say, no, I don't. More than 90% said, oh, I'm not using CD-ROM. I'm not using to install programs. I don't use. So why is it in? Yeah, because it was built in. So they took it out. So they took it out for the 𝗖𝗶𝗁, which makes it more light, less expensive. And what they did was they replaced the hard drive by using SSD RAM. So when you switch on the computer, the 𝗖𝗶𝗁, it was immediately there. So didn't take like Windows to start from hard drive, didn't take 1.5 minutes, just took the computer to start, took just 5 seconds. And it was so much compact, it was fitting into a handbag, and they sold it for 229 euros. 229 euros. That was really a computer they were selling, and they sold millions and millions and millions of computers. And what happened afterwards was everybody was copying them. Toshiba, Dell, they were all copying them. Everybody was jealous. It was a cool strategy. It was a cool innovation story. It was customer inside, yes, but it was not coming by asking people here about how shall we design the next laptop, how shall we design the next computer, because you get a dull answer. But it was by tackling the problems of those kind of people, right? So that is a very important aspect, psychological wise, you have to understand before dealing with marketing research, dealing with marketing in general. So we can obtain information in general form, internal data. So we can look at our database, how much we are selling to which kind of people. We are also researching, or we can look at databases. So there are databases available. So for example, in Germany, we have Die Statis. So this is the site of the Statistical Bundesamt, Statistischen Bundesamt. So we can find a lot of data about how much money are people spending on dog food, or how many cats are are living in flats or in single houses, etc. So all kind of data is available. But you can also ask Nielsen or market research institutions to collect information before you as well. So internal databases are electronic collections of consumer, but also on market information obtained from data sources within the company itself. So for example, at Shell, we had an internal database. So every time there was a report on Exxon, there was a report on British Petroleum, we were registering that, and we were scanning the article, and we were uploading the information to a database. So we had an Access database, and this is a competitor intelligence database, a management information system, we call that, a management or marketing information system. So every time we were having a new kind of product launch or some kind of strategy and say, oh, we need to do something for the Australian market, we were just typing in Australia and retail, for example, or chemical market. And then all the information was popping up as to our competitors. What is the market share of Exxon here? And what is the market share of BP? What did BP do in terms of refinery, etc., etc.? So that is one way of getting information. The other one is like saying marketing intelligence. So the systematic collection and analysis of, and that's the main thing, publicly available information. Publicly available information, but not all available. All information is available that you're looking for, right? So there are also some information which are very much specific to your branch, and there are no databases which are accessible, which store this information, and therefore you also need this marketing research itself. So you need to have agencies such as Nielsen to carry out marketing research, to ask customers, to do online questionnaires, right? So marketing research is the systematic collection, design and collection, analysis and reporting of data relevant to a specific marketing question. For example, Apple, probably they were going to a market research company and say, okay, please access the market. So how big is it? How many are potentially, how many potential customers do we have in India, China, worldwide, etc.? What is the market share of Netflix there? What is the market share of Hulu? What is the market share of Amazon, etc., etc., whatever. So you have a certain kind of question before you enter a market like that, and you need to do marketing research based on, like I said, internal data, publicly available data, but definitely also you need to hire some agencies to do that. Why should you do that? Because management often, they base decisions on no data. So not just on a gut feeling, on instinct, experience, but that is often wrong. That is a wrong approach. It's a counterproductive approach because all too often decisions are made wrong, and also estimates also from people in the industry are wrong. So for example, Daimler, Gottlieb Daimler, one of the founders of Daimler-Benz, right? He said, he made a famous prediction. He said, there is not a world market for cars. So nobody wants to drive a car simply because there are not enough chauffeurs in the world, right? Oh, there is from Ken Olson, was also one IT guy, and he said 640K is all a computer ever needs. And so there are a lot of management quotes that later were shown that they were completely wrong, even though those quotes were coming from the people working in the industry. That is because they are based on judgment. The judgment and the estimate is based on instinct and experience, but not on data. And we have a lot of inside perspective, inside out. Personal inside the organization, they have a strong opinion about what customers want. So because they may have been successful in the past doing a certain kind of thing in a certain kind of way, makes them believe that this is going to work forever and forever and forever. Because we feel that in consulting. So if you go to companies, and I was referring to that before, companies all too often they say, yeah, that is interesting what you're saying, but we've been doing this for 85 years. We've been doing this for 110 years, etc. Right? And we know our customers for 125 years. So, and then I'm always asking, my joke is always, how old is the customer if you know him for 125 years? Is he 125? No, it's still 40 to 49. That's a target group, male, etc. with a certain kind of income. But I say, yeah, but psychographic wise, lifestyle wise, aren't those people different today than they have been 125 years ago? And then people say, no, it's kind of the same. Yeah, we know our business. The problem is that customers may be basing their decisions and selection criteria on entirely different criteria than what management thinks is based upon. Therefore, we need to have marketing research. Marketing research, and this is what I took from my friend's books, Professor Kotler. Define the problem and the research objective. So that's the first thing. So you have one question. For example, should we be in the streaming? Is it a market which is attractive to us and where we can capitalize on our brand and on our experience? Then you have to develop a research plan for collecting information. So what do you want to do? How many people do you want to ask? And do you want to do online questionnaire? Do you want to observe customers, etc., etc.? You implement the research plan, collect and analyze the data, or you have an agency doing that for you. And in the last stage, of course, you need to interpret that, the report and the findings, and to answer the question which has been raised at the beginning. So like, should we be in the streaming market? Okay. And the last thing I'm talking about today in today's session is primary and secondary data. Primary data, it sounds a bit weird because what you do first you collect secondary data. Why? Because it should be called primary data, but it's called secondary data. Secondary data consists of information that already is there. It has been collected before, probably for another purpose, but the big advantage is it is quick, it is cheap, so it is available, right? So everybody can go to Statista. Okay, for Statista, some graphs you have to pay, but everybody can go to diestatis.de and look for the number of cars in Germany, or number of people living in Germany, or what is the average income, etc., whatever. So all this data is available. It's quick, it's cheap. However, it may not be the most relevant data. It can also be that some part of the data may be obsolete. Therefore, what you do this first, and then you do this after that, primary data. This is the data which consists of information gathered for a specific research plan. So this is the data you collect yourself. It takes time, it is expensive, but however, it is more specific, it is more controllable, it's more up to date because you have an agency assembling that or collecting that for you. Okay, so I think we have about an hour, so I don't want to keep the videos too long because also the attention span of people might not be there. Let's keep the video approximately to 1 hour. So I end the recording here. Thank you very much for your attention. I think we went a huge step here, nearly 18 slides. And I'm seeing you next week, but I stay in the line. Of course, I stay online for a couple of more minutes to answer the question. First of all, thanks very much for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you again. Cheers. Bye-bye.